Good day, and welcome to our exploration of one of the most remarkable figures in the annals of polar exploration. Today, we're delving into the life and legacy of Sir Ernest Henry Shackleton, a man whose name has become synonymous with leadership, endurance, and the indomitable human spirit. Born on the 15th of February 1874, Shackleton was an Anglo-Irish Antarctic explorer who led 3 British expeditions to the Antarctic. He was one of the principal figures of the period known as the heroic age of Antarctic exploration. Shackleton's life was a testament to the power of human resilience and adaptability. His expeditions were marked by both triumph and disaster, yet it was his handling of the latter that truly set him apart. I find it particularly fascinating how Shackleton's reputation has evolved over time. While he was certainly respected in his own era, it wasn't until much later that he truly became celebrated as a paragon of leadership. This shift in perception tells us as much about changing cultural values as it does about Shackleton himself. I called to the other men that the sky was clearing, and then a moment later I realised that what I had seen was not a rift in the clouds, but the white crest of an enormous wave. Shackleton's early life was marked by a restlessness that would come to define his career. Born in County Kildare, Ireland, his family moved to London when he was 10. It's worth noting that Shackleton's Anglo-Irish background was not insignificant. The late 19th century was a time of rising Irish nationalism, and Shackleton's identity as both Irish and a loyal servant of the British Empire was somewhat complex. This duality perhaps contributed to his ability to navigate difficult situations and bring together diverse groups of people. Shackleton's formal education ended at the age of 16 when he went to sea. This was not an uncommon path for young men of his time, but it's clear that Shackleton was driven by more than just economic necessity. He had a genuine passion for adventure and exploration. His early years at sea were spent in the merchant marine, where he honed the skills that would later serve him so well in the Antarctic. It's fascinating to consider how these formative experiences shaped Shackleton's leadership style. The merchant marine was a tough environment, requiring both physical endurance and the ability to work with a diverse crew. These were lessons Shackleton would apply to great effect in his later expeditions. Difficulties are just things to overcome, after all. Shackleton's first taste of Antarctic exploration came with the Discovery Expedition of 1901 to 1904, led by Robert Falcon Scott. This expedition is crucial to understanding Shackleton's later career, as it both inspired his passion for Antarctic exploration and set the stage for his future rivalry with Scott. The expedition aimed to carry out scientific research and geographical exploration in what was then a largely unknown continent. Shackleton served as third officer, but he quickly distinguished himself with his affable nature and leadership skills. One of the most significant events of the Discovery Expedition was the southern sledge journey undertaken by Scott, Shackleton and Edward Wilson. They reached a new further south of 82 degrees south, a significant achievement at the time. However, the journey was marred by hardship. The men suffered from scurvy, snow blindness and frostbite. Shackleton, in particular, struggled with his health and was eventually sent home early by Scott. This decision would have a profound impact on Shackleton's future. While officially it was due to health concerns, there has been much speculation about whether Scott saw Shackleton as a potential rival. Regardless of the reason, this early return home lit a fire in Shackleton. He was determined to return to the Antarctic and prove himself. I seemed to vow to myself that someday I would go to the region of ice and snow and go on till I came to one of the poles of the Earth, the end of the axis upon which this great round ball turns. Shackleton's next major Antarctic venture was the Nimrod Expedition of 1907 to 1909. This was Shackleton's first command, and he was determined to make his mark. The expedition had 2 main objectives: to reach the South Pole and to reach the South Magnetic Pole. While neither goal was fully achieved, the expedition was nonetheless a remarkable success. Shackleton and 3 companions managed to get within 97 nautical miles of the South Pole, setting a new record for the furthest south ever reached by humans. This was a truly staggering achievement given the technology and knowledge of the time. What I find particularly interesting about the Nimrod Expedition is how it exemplifies Shackleton's leadership style. Despite the extreme conditions and the disappointment of not reaching the pole, Shackleton managed to bring all his men home alive. This was no small feat in an era when Antarctic exploration often came at a deadly cost. Shackleton's decision to turn back when they did, despite being so close to their goal, showed a level of judgment and concern for his men that would become his hallmark. It's worth noting that this expedition also included the first ascent of Mount Erebus, the world's southernmost active volcano. This further demonstrates the wide-ranging ambition of Shackleton's expeditions, which were never solely focused on reaching the pole. We had pierced the veneer of outside things. We had suffered, starved and triumphed, grovelled down yet grasped at glory, grown bigger in the bigness of the whole. We had seen God in his splendours, heard the text that nature renders. We had reached the naked soul of man. The Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition of 1914 to 1917, also known as the Endurance Expedition, is perhaps the most famous of Shackleton's adventures. It's certainly the one that has captured the public imagination most strongly. The expedition's goal was ambitious: to cross the Antarctic continent from sea to sea via the South Pole. However, it's the expedition's failure to even begin this crossing, and the subsequent survival story that has become legendary. The expedition's ship, Endurance, became trapped in pack ice in the Weddell Sea, and was eventually crushed and sunk. This left Shackleton and his crew stranded on the ice, far from any hope of rescue. What followed was one of the most remarkable survival stories in the history of exploration. Shackleton led his men across the ice to Elephant Island, from where he and 5 others made an incredible 800-mile journey in a small boat, the James Caird, to South Georgia to seek help. This journey, across some of the most dangerous seas in the world, in the depths of the Antarctic winter, is considered one of the greatest small boat journeys ever accomplished. Upon reaching South Georgia, Shackleton and 2 others then had to cross the island's mountainous interior to reach the whaling station on the other side. It's a testament to Shackleton's leadership that, despite these incredible hardships, not a single man from the Endurance was lost. For scientific discovery, give me Scott. For speed and efficiency of travel, give me Amundsen. But when disaster strikes and all hope is gone, get down on your knees and pray for Shackleton. Shackleton's legacy is a complex one. In his own lifetime, he was certainly respected, but he was often overshadowed by his contemporary Robert Falcon Scott. Scott's death on his return from the South Pole in 1912 had turned him into a national hero, and his style of leadership, stoic, duty-bound, and ultimately tragic, fit well with the prevailing ethos of the time. Shackleton, by contrast, was seen as something of a failure. He had never reached the pole, and his expeditions had often ended in what could be seen as disaster. It wasn't until much later, particularly from the 1980s onwards, that Shackleton's reputation began to grow. This reassessment of Shackleton's legacy is fascinating to me. It reflects changing attitudes towards leadership and success. In our modern era, Shackleton's ability to adapt to changing circumstances, his focus on the welfare of his men, and his ultimate success in bringing them home safely are seen as exemplary leadership qualities. His story has been used in business schools and leadership seminars as a model of how to lead in crisis situations. However, I think it's important not to over-romanticize Shackleton. He was a complex figure, often in debt, and his personal life was not always smooth. His drive for adventure and fame sometimes came at a cost to his family relationships. Nonetheless, his story remains an inspiring one, a testament to human endurance and the power of effective leadership in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. By endurance we conquer. As we conclude our exploration of Sir Ernest Shackleton's life and legacy, it's worth reflecting on why his story continues to captivate us more than a century after his most famous exploits. I believe it's because Shackleton's story speaks to something fundamental in the human spirit, our capacity to endure, to adapt, and to triumph over seemingly impossible odds. In an age where we often feel at the mercy of forces beyond our control, Shackleton's leadership during the Endurance Expedition offers a powerful example of how individuals can shape their destiny through sheer force of will and character. Moreover, Shackleton's story reminds us of the complexity of human achievement. His expeditions were not unqualified successes in the conventional sense. He never reached the South Pole, never completed his trans-Antarctic crossing. Yet it's precisely in the face of these failures that his greatest strengths emerged. This nuanced view of success and failure, I think, resonates strongly in our current era. It encourages us to look beyond simple metrics and consider the true measure of leadership and achievement. As we face our own challenges, both personal and global, Shackleton's example continues to inspire and instruct, reminding us of the power of resilience, adaptability, and compassionate leadership. Optimism is true moral courage. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the life of Sir Ernest Shackleton. If you've enjoyed this exploration of polar history, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your support makes it possible for us to continue bringing these fascinating historical stories to life. Do let me know in the comments if there are other polar explorers or aspects of Antarctic history you'd like to see covered in future episodes. Until next time, remember Shackleton's words: difficulties are just things to overcome after all.